Great job, Greg and Odelia. Thank you so much. And we're also going to have 3 vendors come up, 3 suppliers, Infor, Weblo, and Tata Consultancy. And while those gentlemen are coming up, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. We're also going to ask some questions of the suppliers. And so give us some other thoughts as to what questions you might want to ask as well. Odelia, I'll start with you. Are there any thoughts as far as your anyone looking to either expand their enterprise asset management system or looking at a new system? What are some of the helpful hints you might give them as they're going through down that process?
So, this one's got.
Oh, can we put that one up, please?
Okay. So the most important thing is just know your customers, know what you want to do. With all those departments, we spent a lot of time defining what an asset was to each of us. That's why we ended up with separate schemas. Somebody thought something was an asset, someone else thought it was a part, and the functionality is different. So do your due diligence of your operations, how people are going to use it, and don't try to implement everything in one swoop. Do phased approach and get those successes. That motivates the customer, motivates your IT team, and those little wins help you learn along the way.
Okay, thank you. Greg, how about yourself? As far as what you've been seeing, I know you said some of the customers are want to check first, want to evaluate first. Any observations or helpful hints as to how to get them past that hurdle to be able to move on with the implementation?
I think a big chunk of that is related to understanding who those clients are and their willingness to try something new. Mm-hmm. And once you're able to do that, you've got a pretty good level of what I call pilot ground that can enable you to go forward with that. But it doesn't solve the whole opportunity, right? You're still going to have to understand your net customer base that may not be able to catch on or want to catch on to the latest and greatest innovation up front. And you can't leave those folks out, right? Those are very important customers that at some point will be willing to invest if you do things the right way. The wild card with that is with the diversity that we've got across our customer maturity base, again, the Africa versus, say, the North American mechanization level, there's really a wide range of opportunity there. And with that, your sales engineers and people in the field have a pretty good idea about those either farm businesses or individual farmers and what level of innovation that they're leveraged to support. Through some type of incentives, or just open to try.
Great. Before I ask questions of the suppliers, I feel bad because there's not enough room for everyone. So if we could each maybe introduce yourself and the company, I want to make sure that you're not given short shrift because when the table's not wide enough. So.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Naveen. I'm the Senior Director of Product Management for Infor EAM, as well as a few other products within Infor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lou Roth. I'm the VP of Client Services at Weblo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to be here. My name is Anand Pradhan, and I manage the Business Innovation and Transformation Group for Manufacturing at TCS, Tata Consultancy.
So, Naveen, I think maybe to begin with, we're going to ask you about digital transformation in general, but any observations or comments in working with Miami-Dade or similar clients as to how does the process work? So if someone's looking for an RFP to either upgrade or to purchase an EAM system, for example, what are some of your observations and comments about making the process more trouble-free or more efficient?
Well, Miami-Dade has been such a, I would say, example setter for us. They put the E in enterprise. Mm-hmm. So really understanding what, I'm going to repeat what Odelia said, understanding what you want the system of record to be, right? Is it your ERP system? Is it your EAM system? And why? And also understanding what your business challenges are and trying to solve those business challenges as opposed to having a technology platform in place that can do four different things. So understanding the system of record, understanding your business challenges, and then understanding how fast can your organization really move? Because if you deploy your applications in SaaS, obviously SaaS deployments are updated regularly. Is your organization even ready to accept such a change at this level? So the deployment strategy, your organizational pains, as well as your system of record, I would say are three big things that I would consider.
Good. While you're here, because I know we have limited space here, but so knowing that Infor is both horizontal and vertical, but there's a great effort on verticalization. Any comments on kind of what the, moving forward, how you look at different industries, how you look at different product roadmaps, just in general, not looking for anything proprietary, but the thought is, from a user's perspective, what might they learn from how your process works?
Well, I don't think it's a secret because our executives get on the stage every year at our annual conference and mention that our strategy is go to market by industry, right? We understand that EAM is such a horizontal product, it serves hospitals. It's weird, but we had a customer, what was an agricultural customer last year. We have customers in manufacturing, and we have research labs like CERN that use EAM. So the asset scope, complexity, and the challenges that these organizations are trying to solve are very different, although it's all related to maintenance in some way, shape, or form. So from a product standpoint, we always challenge ourselves to build a core, as Odelia mentioned, that's configurable to these industries. And when we build these configurations, we work with our customers. It's always customer-driven enhancements and capabilities in our systems, right? So we don't want to dream up capabilities in our applications that are, if we build, they will use it strategy, doesn't work at Infor. So that's how we really approach the problem.
Great, thank you. Lou, can you give us a sense for the many things Webelo does, but also kind of how it integrates or maybe more accurately works with EAM and FSM systems?
Yeah, sure. So Webelo is an interesting company in that we're not an EAM system platform ourselves, but we work with companies who have them, and the whole reason for our being is to help companies build their own applications for what they would like to do in terms of their assets and how they want to manage them and what they want to do. So we provide a platform for building those applications in a rapid application development way. So from our standpoint, it's all about what tools can we provide, because most of these people are do-it-yourselfers. They're building their own projects, or they're working with integrators who are building projects. So it's up to us to identify the kinds of information they want to connect to, their data sources, and provide the features in the product that will allow them to construct the views and the visualizations that the frontline workers who are out in the field need to use.
Mm-hmm. Is there, I understand you've had some unique customizations. Can you share some of the customizations that are being done?
Yeah, so talk to maybe a couple different examples of things that we've built. So we do a lot of work in power, and they have thousands of assets, and they're collecting all kinds of failure mode information. And number one is people want to just grab the stuff from the sources that they have. Sometimes they're just report kind of collections of information that we have to take from, or sometimes they're from systematic solutions that we have to grab the information from. Number one is just to help them see it, to start the conversation. It's like, what does their data really look like according to whatever model they may have? They may have cost models, they may have failure mode models. So number one is capturing that data, creating visualizations of it and presenting it back to them that starts the conversation. And then that enables us to have further conversations about really what's happening. Is it, like I thought it was interesting, that mileage versus time. And we see that as well in power. It's like, well, maybe the model isn't exactly correct. It's really about what is the work order flow that's driving these things. So we can apply those kind of functionality to take that and transform the views, and it quite often presents a really different picture of what the bad actors are and where they should really focus their maintenance strategy and take the process forward. In another case, we work in beverage and bottling quite a bit, and there it's more about what can we do with people in the loop. A lot of this stuff, sure, a lot of it has been transformed digitally already, and a lot of data is coming in from sensors, but there's a lot of cases where it's really not been transformed. It's gauges. There's, dials and stuff in the back of the plant that people actually make rounds on paper and collect information from these things. So we're providing means with mobile applications to actually collect this stuff and use the people and the mobile devices to actually perform that digitization that then becomes information that goes to the back operation to trigger alerts when things are over time or over schedule, and they can dispense maintenance operations from there.
Great, great. Anand, can you give a sense for not only the many things that Tata does, but from a perspective of IoT and digital transformation, kind of the key, maybe more than an elevator pitch, but kind of what you communicate with clients?
Sure, absolutely. And before I do that, just as a proud owner of a Massey Ferguson Tafe tractor back in India, I do congratulate you for the quality of your products, Greg. Okay.
Love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Satisfied customer. So coming back to TCS and what we are doing currently with our customer base. And for those of you who don't know TCS, we are a $20 billion IT services business consulting company, one of the top 3 in terms of brand value globally. So I'll talk about what my group is doing, Ed. And as business innovation and transformation, our brief is to push the envelope. And in this case, since we are talking about enterprise asset management and field services, I'll talk about that. So taking the example of Miami-Dade, if you look at the preventive maintenance that the fleet has, what we are trying to do with some of our customers is to take EAM as a platform one step further. Obviously, always keeping in mind the need and the value that it is adding to the customer in terms of improving the safety. And that is, as everyone can acknowledge, extremely important, especially in your environment area. The other part is leveraging EAM, because that is one area where the asset information, the asset data, the connectivity is there, to see how to balance that time versus fuel equation to help EM optimize the asset utilization. That is something that we are doing. In another environment, if you look at it, shared is becoming, in an automotive industry, the in thing to be in. And that is what we are trying to do with some of our other agriculture customers, seeing, especially you spoke about, Greg, in the different business environments that are there in, let's say, Africa or India, where the farmers may not be able to afford. And how can we enable, through the extension of EAM, the shared economy in the agriculture industry? That is one. TCS works with many large customers, and while we are talking about some level of complexity in the products here, I would also like to share what we are doing for much more complex products, and I'm talking about, let's say, aircraft engines or boilers for a thermal power plant. We have products that help create a digital twin that helps optimize those models. And for one of our large aircraft engine manufacturers and customers in UK, we are helping them collect the data, analyze the data, and monetize that data. So taking EM and field services one step further to data monetization. That's in a brief.
So how would someone engage with DCS? Is it through other channels, or can they go directly, or?
No, they can definitely. We have some of our colleagues here, and hopefully my name and email address is in the app. Mm-hmm. So anybody who wants to engage can definitely engage. But the way that we engage, just to answer your question, Ed, is, and I think Naveen also touched upon it a little bit. We start with the customer's context. We start with the customer's pain point and the value. Mm-hmm. The technology, in our opinion, is something that supports that need, mm-hmm. that goes to improve the customer's value.
Thank you. All right, I have a multitude of questions, but I'm going to hold back. Maybe start now if any questions of anyone on the panel now. Is it right over here? Right over there, I think. Thank you.
Maybe this is for Greg. I was just curious, were there any of the, I'll say pilots or the, let's say sensors or things of that nature that did not work as you were going? I mean, we hear all the good, everyone we hear always works, which is good, but the ones that you don't implement are sometimes the ones that are most useful for learning. So I'm just curious about that.
So for Miami-Dade, just some of the transceivers have issues. When we looked at mileage, usually you look at your engine, but as you can see, we had a lot of row calls on engines, so the mileage would reset. So equipment definitely fails. There's certain things you can repair in-house, but if you have to send equipment out, then definitely, that puts a kink in the plan. So, we look at different things. There's a lot of IoT on those vehicles. We have fare boxes, we've got radios, we have cameras to count the passengers. Definitely there are sensors there for the main things, the air conditioning, the doors, the engine, the lights. But once there is a request to bring it in and to look at the symptom, then we do bring it in. We're learning from that data. If a sensor is going bad because we have repeated rogue calls, then definitely we're looking at those numbers and we're bringing that vehicle back in and say, we may just replace it. But overall, we've had good equipment. Definitely the fleet is older. So 10 years tells you that the equipment is pretty good. Customer safety is number one. And our next steps, just to address, the equipment and the failure, we're looking at leveraging some of the Infor mobile for our inspections. So catching by doing random inspection of vehicles, not doing it on paper, but doing it digital, and then doing follow-up work orders right from there to eliminate a lot of those failures. But, like I said, you need to have a goal and you need to have training. And then engage the customer. Definitely, we have a lot of feedback. What works and what doesn't work.
So in our case, we did a lot of what we call our own field testing before we went to market with this. Sure, there were lots of try and fail through those early years, which would be, call it 2004 until about 2008 when we were ready to go prime time with the original AgCommand 1. Keep in mind that a lot of this connectivity is also driving the autonomous tractors and combines out in the field, right? So within that, from a safety perspective, which is number one, with no question, we did as much of the testing that we could do across the applications, across the globe, before we would put something in the hands of a customer that would have any level of risk. Now, the other side of that is when a lot of the connectivity content that we talked about, or IoT, was more on the online diagnostic type of activities. So to say that there was probably not any level of premature wear that was detected, or in other cases where wear was not protected, is not a 100% valid statement. There were cases where that happened, and over time, as we continue to get feedback on the diagnostics on the machines, we continue to build in our own software corrections and how to read and how to learn. But that goes along the case of, if you don't try, you're never going to do something new. And if you don't fail, you're not trying hard enough to create something new.
And I want to add something. So we are upgrading our fleet. Well, there's a new version of the IoT software for our EJ Ward. So we do it in phases to test precisely that. It may not be the equipment, but the software. So we do roll out small, manageable groups and be able to test some of that.
Next question? All right.
Someone should comb ahead.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely, Paula.
Greg, I have a question for you. I think some people might be a little surprised at how much IoT ag is actually using, and you're probably head of the manufacturing industry by a mile, at least. I didn't quite get with your apps. My understanding is that the soil moisture and a lot of that stuff, that's the farmer's intellectual property, and he wants to protect that. Is that shared? If it's uploaded, is it protected, or how is that used? I didn't quite get that.
I didn't share a whole lot of it, but it's a great question. So really, it's up to a customer. So a customer is not a customer. You could have a customer that's a co-op, and within that co-op, there could be 50 different farmers that are basically utilizing a piece of equipment that they may utilize 1 or 2 times per year. And with that, the data that an individual farmer or that a co-op collects is their data. If they choose to share that, that's up to them. Now, there's a number of other companies that are starting to come out, particularly in the seed area, that are looking and actually willing to pay customers for that data, right? Because they're doing a larger type of, let's call it, investigation on different soil conditions across different parts of the world and what they need to do in order to help optimize that customer's yield. A company that comes to mind is Indigo. Very, very leading edge and one of the top 50 disruptors, I think, in last year. Those guys are doing some wonderful things. They're going to have great potential in the future in ag based on getting that information, helping to develop the microbes that will yield better nutritional products, less gluten additives and things like that into the grain markets. And customers want that because as a result of understanding that data, they can have a higher cost per bushel selling price, guaranteed one way or another. So, okay. It is, because again, it's their data, but there's lots of people out there that are wanting to grab that data and willing to buy it.
And if I can just add to that, Greg, what TCS is doing in that field, and you spoke about the data for the field and the moisture being proprietary to the farmer. If I look at countries like India or Africa where the farmers are small time shareholders, that information is not really useful to them because they can't leverage them. On the other hand, we can provide them information on commodity trading prices. We can provide them information on fertilizer prices. We can provide them information on the monsoon, which is critical to that crop. So it works both ways. It works in terms of collecting data from the farmers, and it also works in terms of providing inputs for the farmers as well.
And that was one of the points that I brought a few times is for us, the scope of a customer is so large in terms of their technical innovation based on the size of the farm that they may have. I mean, many farmers in India or Africa or China may have less than 1 hectare, right? And that's what sustains their life. They can't spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars on some of our equipment, but they really don't need to either. If you're in a competitive situation where you're in business when you've got, 10,000 hectares, to the 5th decimal point is a lot of money returned to your business. And with that, the value proposition that we can bring is a different pitch than what it would be to invest in a 45 horsepower Massey Ferguson licensed tractor built by Taffy in India.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine that for the small farmer, it would be a very different situation
Sure.
than the corporate farm. So that part I get.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I believe we have a question over here.
Yep, my question is for Odelia. In regards to all of the EAM systems out there, what drove you to use or pick Infor as your
Good question.
solution?
So in 2003, we did market research. We had a list of over 100 requirements, and definitely the different departments all had a say in what they wanted. Again, last year, we did a contract renewal. We went again to look at market research. We did our review of Gartner, sent out our requirements. We have made the decision based on the ability to be flexible and configurable. This architecture probably wouldn't work with a piece of software that's very strict. It's the fact that we're able to leverage infrastructure instead of the software that makes the solution work. So we're looking for companies that are able to do that. When you work in government, you are bound by a lot of regulations that just come up and you have deadlines, so you have to adapt quickly. And that's one of the main things we look at. And then growth as well. We wanted to bring everybody on, so slowly but surely, those 26 departments, if it's just doing their capital inventory for the annual reporting, we want to bring them on the enterprise. So we needed to be able to offer something to everyone and start rolling out modules little by little as the user needs them, not an overload.
Any other questions yet? I have one if not right now. Okay, so we want to move from, and it's not necessarily that one is inferior if they're not, but from the predictive and looking at beyond preventive to predictive and prescriptive maintenance. That's kind of the overall goal of organizations. What are your observations, and maybe work our way down, as far as what are some hints or observations to be able to move toward that journey, realizing that not everyone will get the prescriptive and very few are truly there now, but any observations to help someone at least begin to have a roadmap?
Yeah, I think even one of my development managers said, like, make your first million before you make your second million. I'm like, maybe I'll make $10,000 first. But well, I think for us, the biggest thing that we need to get right is condition assessment. How do you benchmark a health score for your asset, right? So there's so many different inputs that you can feed into the EAM system. Adelia mentioned inspections as one of them, feeding direct information from your sensors. And you could have quality systems, you could have SCADA systems that are feeding in this information to your EAM system. So defining a way to understand what is the health of your asset, it becomes critical to even prescribe or to say what you're supposed to do for this asset. And then, EAM always has subscribed to the reliability-centered maintenance methodology, where you say which type of asset should perform, what type of maintenance activity should be performed on which type of asset. We're also moving from condition assessments and moving up a little towards an asset performance management type of paradigm, where our customers are coming over and saying that, I know that I have these categories of assets that are in the field. I know that I have to perform predictive maintenance on these assets in some way, shape, or form. I have, $1 billion in maintenance spend over the next 10 years. How should I invest in my assets? So not only predicting where those maintenance strategies should be applied, but also predicting what the cost of this would be to repair, replace, or to bring your asset to a certain condition score and to maintain those service levels. That's really the paradigm we're headed towards with the EMD.
Lou, your thoughts as well?
Yeah, well, I see it from kind of a different view in terms of what people want us to incorporate into the products. And the thing that's been happening recently is, of course, can we ingest XYZ asset model and just bring that into the product so we can manipulate over the top of it. There seems to be trends in being able to have contextualized asset models tied to tags and various other kind of IoT stuff that's coming in, and to be able to have that available and at the ready to just look at that data and be able to get the visualizations on top of it and so forth. And then the last is to be able to exercise some kind of function over top of it, whether it's downtime, some kind of downtime metrics or waste metrics or other metrics that people have coming up with a variety of analytic services that can operate over the top of those things and be able to apply them and play what-if games. So we're trying to build all that into the environment such that they can arrive at some kind of prediction to find the right set of metrics that will allow them to make reasonably concrete predictions about what's going to happen with their assets.
Adelia, how about you? And especially in a municipal environment, being able to plan and communicate, it's probably a challenge as well. How do you communicate, well, we need to spend this over the next, to help us? You're already doing it, obviously, with the replacement of the fleet, but
Yes.
how do you do that?
So we have various initiatives in the county. Infor is our partner. We have leveraged new technology. For example, for our internal services department who manages our facilities, we link our CAD drawings. Now we want to do BIM drawings as well because we do space management and where we can put our employees, where can we service our community. For our water and sewer department, they use EAM for managing all the pipes. So they're heavy into geographical. Again, some of the stuff that we have to abide by comes down as a federal or as a state mandate. And it's good to have the flexibility and to always look at technology. But a lot of these things are also, as everybody has mentioned, it's the people in the end to adopt the technology and know that they're there to help you, not to take over your job, and that you're going to be better at what you do. So, constant conversation with Infor, a lot of attention to being aligned with the technology, with what is new and what are the possibilities, and not to be afraid to try something new.
Great, thank you. Anand, as far as the journey through, hopefully, eventually nirvana of prescriptive maintenance, but any observations or comments?
Sure. So I think we've already touched upon the technology and the cost and the human element of it. But the way that we look at it is an asset is part of an ecosystem, right? It is part of its environment. And in order to make prescriptive maintenance successful, you have to understand that environment. You have to understand the supply chain that is going to support the spare parts that are going to support that successful prescriptive maintenance. You need to understand the environment in which that tractor is going to work in. You need to understand the environment or the kind of streets that the buses are going to ply on. If you have the complete picture of the ecosystem, that helps to move you towards that prescriptive maintenance nirvana that you spoke about.
Thank you, Greg. Any thoughts of going toward that nirvana?
So essentially, it's how do you drive value in the eyes of the customer? And within that, for the dealer, it's how do they generate more revenue, more margin, more throughput? So if they have a targeted way that says, okay, I have a customer who has 1,800 hours on their machine, and typically they repurchase at 2,500, I need to go out and start having a discussion with that customer. That makes it more efficient for the dealer, makes it more efficient for the customer, and it helps with the repeatability of them buying AGCO products. So there's a big benefit for them. In terms of the uptime, or the customer, the end customer, the uptime, the operating cost per hour, key values in what they're paying for. And with that, if you can incentivize them to try, and then you can satisfy them with the real deal, you keep them coming back again, which helps you with repeat business. That then also helps the dealer. So in that case, we've got a positive domino effect. And thirdly, then for AGCO, it's the customer satisfaction that keeps them coming back. So by providing that value to the end customer, it benefits the complete value chain because there's confidence earned in the value proposition that's been sold. And as a result of that, everybody's happy, right? Or as happy as they can be given the circumstances. But we also utilize a lot of that data for our design for reliability long-term. Right? And that's something that we are willing to pay for, whether it's based on the customer information that we're gaining that helps us then design better planters or tillage equipment or application equipment, because in the big picture, it's going to provide value back to the customer at some point in time that we will realize what we're looking to get.
Good point. It looks like we might have time for one or two more questions if anyone has any questions.
Design for reliability just excites me. I love that.
You're shaking. We can see it.
Any questions at all? All right, well, thank you to the panel. Outstanding job. I appreciate all your insight.